Alright, somebody has posted the Greyjoy Box spoilers, so we're going to go ahead and review the Greyjoy Box a little bit earlier than anticipated. Should be pretty fun. Let's see if I can keep it to 30 minutes or less. I doubt it, but we'll find out. So we start with the new Greyjoy big characters here, which is Balon Greyjoy, Pillage Renown, and Action. Kneel your faction card to put a card from the opponent's discard into play under your control. At the end of the phase, shuffle it back into the owner's deck. I think this guy looks pretty nuts to me. Now, will he get played over the King version of Balon? Maybe not, literally only because of the King in the North. But if you pretend the King in the North doesn't exist, I think this is generally the best version of Balon. I don't know. I think he's pretty good. I can think of all kinds of ways that you could make people salty with this card. And there's like a good enough amount of pillage, I feel like, and people just discarding their own cards, and I don't know. Just imagine if they somehow have any character of any like meaningful strength, 4 cost or more character into their discard pile, and you can just put that in for free on your side. That's pretty damn strong. And even taking their flea bottom stuff out with this ability is pretty decent. And I just like the ability, so we'll see what happens. Of course, I say this, and it's going to end up being one of those cards that makes me super salty every time I have to go against it, because he'll like pillage the best character in my deck right off the top on the first turn, like freaking Corset Euron always does. But we'll save that rant for when it actually happens. We have the new Euron Crow's Eye, a 6/4 Tricon. He has Intimidate, and after you marshal Euron, search your hand, deck, and discard pile for silence and put it into play. So he gets his Longship silence, basically, no matter what. You can't prevent him from getting it. I mean, you can cancel the reaction with Treachery or something, but other than that, even if it's been blown up by, Nothing Burns Like the Cold or something, he just puts it right back into play. This guy obviously compares to the Red Viper from the Martell box, which has seen basically no play, which was an Intimidate Tricon. But Martell is also a different type of faction, so I'm not sure how much that will really matter. I think this guy will end up seeing some play and being pretty good because he also compares favorably to Greatjon Umber in the sense that his Longship Silence, which we'll see below, stands him as an action. So he's basically a Greatjon Umber with like 3 icons and 1 less strength, but you can always just stand him whenever you want with Silence. You don't have to actually win a military to stand him. And also, you get the additional benefits of getting a 4-cost location into play for free. The opportunity cost of this character is you're not using the Corset Euron, and I think that's a pretty steep cost. And if he doesn't see a lot of play, that'll be the main reason why, because people are still just picking the Corset Euron. And I think it would be entirely reasonable to still just use the Corset version, even if this guy is like kind of more, I don't know, he feels more like he does more stuff, I guess you could say. He feels like he's a more active card, whereas the Corset Euron is just a big, generic, good body. I wouldn't be surprised if people, default back to the sort of good stuff mindset that they always go back to and favor the Corset version. But I expect when the box drops, you're going to see 500,000 billion decks of Greyjoy warships with this guy in silence. Obviously that's going to be a thing. Got the new Asha. Pillage, Stealth. Each other unique Ironborn you control gains Stealth. I'm not very impressed by this character. I mean, for 6 cost, just giving other characters Stealth, like, I don't know. I think I would just rather use a different 6-cost character and use Pike if giving other characters Stealth was that super awesome. The fact that Pike sees basically 0 play means that it's not really that good. And you have a high opportunity cost here of using this 6-cost dude when, I could just be using like the 6-cost Victarion. And if you put aside the granting stealth thing, the 6-cost Victarion's way better as a body. So I think this card is not very impressive, and I don't expect it to see much play. It definitely seems worse than the 7-cost Asha, that's for sure. And I might even say she's worse than the 5-cost Corset Asha, because the Corset Asha doesn't require any other cards to be good. She can just stand herself twice a lot of the time. Doesn't need help, doesn't need anyone else to do it for her. But maybe she'll see some play in like unopposed decks, who knows. We have the Knight, 5 cost, 5 Bicon, no attachments except weapon. While he's attacking alone, he gains stealth and renown. So he's like a wannabe Corset Knight of Flowers. It's kind of cool. I think in Crossing, he's pretty good. Not sure about other decks because he doesn't really do anything to like affect the board, and he's kind of expensive, so I don't know if he'll find his way into good stuff decks. I think he's the space in those decks is just too tight for him to really make the cut, where you're trying to like, you know, control the opponent's locations and stuff, and he just doesn't accomplish that. But if you're doing a Crossing deck and you just want to gain power fast, obviously he could be pretty good. We have the new Aeron Damphair, Drowned God Ironborn Lord with Insight. After another Drowned God character is killed, draw a card. He's a 5 for 3, which is a bad strength ratio, but he's not really here to win challenges. He's here to draw cards, and it looks like he's going to be very good at that. The issue with this guy is if you're playing Drowned God, you have to not use the core set Aeron, which a lot of Drowned God decks kind of rely on that guy to do a lot of work. But maybe with the influx of even more Drowned God characters from this box, there will be enough like other Drowned God stuff that you don't have to rely on core set Aeron anymore, and you can use this version instead. I definitely like this version because I like drawing cards, and this guy looks like he can draw a heck of a lot of cards. Really would help fuel the sort of Drowned God engine, because if you draw a billion cards, then you can find all your pieces, and then you can just play Solitaire to 15 power. If it becomes a threatening deck type, I'll be sad because I don't like Solitaire deck types, but I guess it's at least it's something different, we'll say that. We have the Drum, a Captain and Lord, 5 for 4, 2 icons. While he's attacking in military or power, characters with an intrigue icon rather cannot be declared as a defender. So seems like a pretty good one-of for like unopposed decks. Like if you're using Seastone Chair and Great Kraken and that type of stuff, I'd say you probably always put this guy in as a one-of, because there's going to be a lot of times where he's going to have some way to attack and they're not going to be able to defend because of that ability. Seems pretty decent. But no keywords or anything, so outside of like the dedicated unopposed type deck, probably doesn't get used, would be my guess. Maybe Crossing also likes him just to have more ways to stop people from being able to defend, so you can rush up to 15. Coffee sip break. We have Gwyneth Harlaw, House Harlow Lady. 4 cost power or single icon. Choose 3 cards in opponent's discard pile and place them on the bottom of their deck in any order. Then gain 1 gold and draw 1 card. Kind of a weird character. I'm not sure what they're going for with this. I guess this is supposed to be a pillage synergy character. I think if she had an intrigue icon, she would be pretty good. But I don't know how I feel about the power single icon. The ability to just gain a gold and draw a card every turn basically for free is quite nice, but you do have to consistently keep their discard pile at 3 or more cards. I believe you cannot do this if they only have 1 or 2 cards, and obviously if the discard pile is empty, it's not going to work. So probably not really worth it and not going to make the cut at the end of the day would be my guess. A 4 cost body that just sits there and isn't very good and is only getting 1 gold and drawing 1 card is not really good enough by itself. If she was cheaper, if she was like in the chump cost range of 2 or maybe 3 gold, she would be more viable, I think, but just a little too expensive. Maybe pillage, like janky pillage decks will use her and she'll be decent. Another card that I think is also for a pillage deck but probably likely to be stronger is Andric the Unsmiling. Ironborn Raider, 4 costs, 5 strength, 1 icon, but after Andric discards a card using pillage, choose a non-limited location or attachment in the losing opponent's discard pile, discard 1 copy of that card from play. So you have the potential here to discard things like Dorne, Meereen, if we pretend that Targ ever plays any decks besides House with the Red Door, which actually, I mean, I keep running into Targ Fealty and like Wars and stuff like that, which is weird to me. I'm like, why aren't you guys just doing HRD Marine? But anyways, obviously discarding Murine's really good. Yeah, just there's a lot of good locations that you like to get rid of with this ability, I think. Even just, discarding Flea Bottom. The problem is he's only one icon, and it's not exactly a very reliable ability. It's more reliable than the Tickler because it's anytime they have the location in their discard, you can do it. So however it ends up there, but there's still definitely going to be times where his ability just doesn't do anything, and he's just a single icon character with effectively no abilities, which I think is a little too inefficient to really be worth it. But if you're doing some type of like dedicated pillage deck, I think obviously this guy goes in and could potentially make some big plays. Maybe in like the classic Lannister Banner of the Kraken with the 5-cost Tywin that like lets you filter your pillages. He probably goes in that deck. Karl the Maid, 4-cost, 3 strength, 2 icons. The Maid, the spoiler text is too blurry to read. Is this a female? Because it's Karl the Maid. I can't tell if it's a woman or not. It's like androgynous. It's bothering me. Anyways, Ironborn dude here. After you win a challenge in which the Maid's participating, you either stand a warship or you stand Asha Greyjoy. I think it's a bit too specific to really be worth it. Inefficient body with like no stealth or anything like that just stands a warship. I don't think it's really that great. It's good if you have the 7-cost Asha out there, then it's like pretty good. But you still have to actually be able to win the challenge, and you have to have this character and Asha out at the same time. So a lot of times, you just won't draw Asha, or you won't be able to marshal both of them, and it'll just be a 4-cost 3 strength that's kind of like not doing much. So not quite efficient enough in my opinion. Oh, goodness. Whenever I take little breaks from talking, it's because I'm trying to drink coffee. Maester Viman, however you say that. 3 costs, 2 icons, 2 strength. When the effects of a triggered location ability would initiate, kneel Viman to cancel those effects. I don't think this guy is very good because kneeling a 3-cost character to cancel locations when you're Greyjoy and you have like 5 billion better, more efficient ways to deal with locations just doesn't seem worth it. So I don't think this character should ever really see any play. Maybe as a fringe case in Conclave decks of other factions where he's basically a banner card and you just need Maesters. And he can, I guess he can cancel like Flea Bottom and stuff, but even then I think it's a little bit iffy. But that's probably the only time that I would ever really use him personally. Now we've got some new Drowned God dudes. We've got Old Grey Gull, 3 costs, 2 icons, 2 strength, Drowned God Ironborn. Kneel Old Grey Gull to kill another Greyjoy character you control, then you can return that character from your dead pile to your hand. Well, I think this guy's pretty good, if only because he combos with the little Acolyte of the Waves that claims a power when it dies. You can just cycle those with this guy, every turn and just keep claiming power. That's pretty good, right? You may return that. Yeah, it just seems like a solid piece for Drowned God decks. Just goes in there as a one-of. I'm sure there's like more powerful combos than that I'm just not thinking of off the top of my head. I think I've literally never played Drowned God, so I'm not terribly familiar with all the different stuff you can do. But I think that is, I think he'll find a place there. What I'm trying to think of characters with enters play abilities that you could like reuse with this, but the only one that really comes to mind is Newly Made Lord, which to be fair, could be good at times, but again, also feels a bit unnecessary. There's probably better ways to deal with locations than that. Priest of Old Wick. While there is a Drowned God character in your dead pile, Priest of Old Wick contributes his strength to your total for dominance even while kneeling. This seems pretty inefficient. If you're doing Naga's Ribs and you just put some dudes in your dead pile, you're probably going to be winning dominance anyways. You don't really need this guy to help you on that front. And he doesn't seem to accomplish anything else. You don't need more power monocons. He doesn't have any abilities that helps you draw cards or fiddle with your dead pile or anything like that. So I think this guy's not quite going to make the cut. Here we have the Drowned Prophet. When Drowned Prophet is killed, search the top 5 for a Greyjoy character, put it in your dead pile shuffle. This is a 2-cost, 2-strength monocon. Obviously, he's a Drowned God. This is another card that could go with Old Grey Gull. I guess the obvious combo is you like kill this dude with Old Grey Gull and put like a 7-cost dude in your dead pile to revive with Corset Aeron. I guess that could be a thing. Other than that, I'm trying to think. I mean, I guess just to stack the Greyjoy characters, the Drowned God characters into your dead pile and sort of, what was I going to say? Like filter through your deck and just get them out of the deck and find all your pieces faster. Probably a decent chump to have for that purpose. And what is that card? The Drowned God Apostle. I don't think you can revive the Drowned God Apostle. I'm trying to think of other characters that can bring themselves out of dead pile besides having to use Corset Aeron's ability. Yeah, I can't really think of any. Anyways, enough about that. Eager Deckhand. 2-cost, 2-strength ally raider. Another little anime girl type character. Does not look as much of an anime girl as, what was that card? The Salt Cliff Sailor? Which legit looked like a cartoon character. I don't understand what was going on with that card. But she's still quite the beauty model for a supposedly hardened Greyjoy, salty navigator raider type person. Anyways, after a warship location enters play under your control, put Eager Deckhand into play from your hand. This seems like a card for warship decks. In reality, I doubt that it'll see any use. Definitely not while Raider from Pike Pinch of Powder is a thing. Raider from Pike is still just better than this card because the Raider Pinch combo is just so stupid. And even then, I think I'd rather have Stony Shore Raider or Lordsport Shipwright. I'm not that excited about just getting a 2-cost single icon chomp that doesn't do anything else. I don't think it's really that useful, even if you're getting it for free. And then we have the Orc Mantri, Ironborn Raider, 2-cost, 1-strength, 2-icons pillage. While the opponent has 10 or more cards in the discard, he gets stealth. Yeah, another character that just doesn't get me too excited. Maybe for unopposed or crossing decks. In a crossing deck, is the game even going to go on long enough for them to get 10 cards in the discard? I think if you're not doing some type of pillage and unopposed type theme, then he doesn't really seem worth it. Because there's a high chance that for half the game he won't have his stealth and then he's just bad. And I'm not sure what the deck would look like where he really would fit. I expect him to not really be used much. Now we're going to move on to the locations. We've got Silence, which is quite the card for warship decks. Kneel Silence to put warship location into play from your hand. Then if you control Euron, stand him, and it's +2 initiative. Well, this is definitely going to see play in warship decks, and I think this might see some play even without the 6-cost new version of Euron, because standing the Corset version is still pretty good. And this card is still pretty good with the 7-cost Victarion that stands himself with warships. So I think that this is just going to be a pretty decent option for warship decks. You can have either version of Euron, you can have the 7-cost Victarion, and then, whatever other expensive character suits your taste, probably Balon because King of the North, right? I think the good stuff Greyjoy at the moment is 3 of the King Balons, 3 of the 7 Ashas, 3 Eurons, and 3 Victarions, and that's the way you go. And if you just get a bunch of warships with this card backing them up, it's a pretty scary deck. We've got Great Wick, 3-cost Drowned God location. After a character enters play from your dead pile, each opponent discards a card at random from their hand. Oh no, it's choose and discard, it's not random. I don't know why I said that. Each opponent chooses and discards a card from their hand. This doesn't really fit the theme of Drowned God. Drowned God is not about discarding people's hands, really. I guess it has the potential to be good in a Drowned God deck, but I think that the Drowned God decks are going to be too much crammed on space and trying to get all their combo pieces too fast. This is sort of a luxury that they won't really be able to afford, in my opinion. And ideally, if you set up your Drowned God engine, then what is this really accomplishing that serves any purpose? Nothing really, in my opinion, because you're just sitting there claiming all your passive power. Why do you care about how many cards they have in their hand? Ideally, they're not going to be able to interact with your power gain engine, so it doesn't matter about discarding stuff. So this seems like kind of a weird location. Probably will not, in my opinion, I don't think it'll be used much. Maybe, I'm sure people try to make a few janky decks around it. Maybe if I ever get around to trying House with the Red Door agendas, I'll try a House of the Red Door with this location. And it'll probably be terrible, but who knows, we'll see. I knew there was some type of new captain synergy here. So Maidens Bane, this is a warship. 2 cost, right? Yeah, these are both 2. After you win an unopposed challenge, kneel Maidens Bane to choose and stand an attacking character. Then if they're a captain, stand Maidens Bane. Stand is really good, right? Probably good for an unopposed deck. Obviously, it is pretty good with 7 cost Asha, who I believe is a captain and has stealth. So you have good potential to use her 2 or theoretically even 3 times with this location, and that's super duper good. You know, if you can get the 3 unopposed. I think this card definitely finds a home in unopposed warship type decks. I believe 7 cost Victarion is a captain, and I think Euron is also a captain. Let's see if he is or not. Yes, he is a captain. Yeah, like I think the core set Asha is not a captain, but the 7 cost is. That's what I think. And Balon is not. I guess he's too old to be a captain, but you know, who needs Balon? We've got Euron and Victarion. Let's see where I was. Golden Storm. After you win a military challenge as the attacker, kneel Golden Storm to choose and kill a participating character. Then if you control a raider, stand Golden Storm. This is a good tool for getting unopposed. It's like a repeatable throwing axe. It just says don't defend the military or I'm going to make you kill an extra dude. So another card that I think could see some play in unopposed warship type decks. I could definitely see a deck where you have, you know, where you have silence and you have Euron to find the silence, and then you just have like one-ofs of a bunch of these different warships. Like you have one-ofs of both of these. I think that'd be pretty decent. That deck is already pretty damn good, it seems like, without needing silence or new Euron or any of these new cards. It's already kind of scary. So, Scouting Vessel. When a character you control discards a card using Pillage, kneel and sacrifice Scouting Vessel to discard 3 cards instead. 0 cost location. This just hinges on Pillage decks ever becoming a thing. I don't anticipate Pillage or Mill being viable themes, and based on that expectation, I think this card is going to stick in the binder. If those decks become a thing, then maybe this is a card that will power them. Maybe like King's Landing with Scouting Vessels will be the new hotness. That'll be like a mill deck. Greyjoy Green Sight is going to run people out of cards. I doubt it, but I guess theoretically it could happen. Now we've got some attachments. Red Rain. A unique Greyjoy character only. If attached character is the drum, he gains stealth. After you win an unopposed challenge in which the character is attacking, they gain 2 power. This seems like a card for crossing and nowhere else. Maybe other types of unopposed decks could use this. But yeah, it seems like a pretty obvious card for crossing, where you just have some unopposed tech and you just fly up to 15 power with this effect. And, you know, Rise of the Kraken and all the typical stuff like that. This is 2 cost, yeah. Then we have 1 cost title Fleet Captain. Attached character gains the captain trait and +1 strength, +3 instead if you have 3 or more warships. Attachments that do nothing besides give a strength buff, like, you know, +2, +3, whatever it might be, and they literally do nothing else, have typically been bad, and I don't expect this to be an exception. Bland card, not very exciting, doesn't seem very good, probably won't be used, probably shouldn't be used. That's my opinion. What is dead may never die. 3 cost. After you win dominance, choose a Greyjoy character in your dead pile and put it into play. Well, I guess this is a Drowned God event. It just seems bad compared to the core set Aeron, because you're paying 3 to do it once, but I could pay 3 to marshal the core set Aeron, who is also a body that counts 3 for dominance, and can just keep doing it every turn. Although I guess theoretically you could have both of them together. This seems a little bit expensive, but I guess if you're doing a Drowned God deck where the idea of the deck is you put 7 cost characters in your dead pile and then bring them into play for way less than they're supposed to cost, then I guess this is a thing. Paying 3 to put a 7 cost in would still be probably worth it. I guess we'll see. This is a card that I'm not sure about. We'll see what people end up doing with it. But 3 cost events, traditionally, there has never been a 3 cost event in the history of the game that has ever really seen a lot of play. They always end up not being worth it. So my prediction, this one probably won't be worth it. Nighttime Raid, 1 cost. Choose up to 3 characters with Pillage or the Raider trait. Until the end of the phase, they gain Stealth. Again, this doesn't seem very good. It seems like overkill. You could just use Pike, and that's probably better and like good enough in most cases to win your unopposed. Seems unnecessary. But I guess for crossing, I give it a maybe. I don't know how many Raiders and Pillage characters there are in crossing decks, but it just does not seem like the most efficient way to win unopposed. I think I'd rather have raiding longships and that type of crap. Even like Flea Bottom with Salt Wife and Wildling Scout is probably more efficient than this. So, not very good. No, now we get to the cards for other factions. Okay. Let's see what these look like. We have Corain Sath Mantes. Kneel the Corain character and a warship to choose and kneel 1 character and 1 location. 5 cost, 3 strength, 2 icons. Seems pretty bad. Kneeling a 5 cost character to do something is pretty darn expensive. The only time that he might be worth it is in like Banner Greyjoy, or I guess the banner could work either way. But basically then you can have warships that either don't kneel to do anything, or not scouting vessels, Iron Fleet Scouts. Now I'm going to get those mixed up. Iron Fleet Scouts, which is 0 cost, so it's like, oh, I knelt that 0 cost location, who cares? And even then, I'm not sure that it's worth it, because the opponent really needs like a 6 or 7 cost character to target with this for it to really be worth it. There's definitely going to be times where he's just a really inefficient body that basically doesn't have any effect. So I'm not sure if there's really room for this guy. I mean, a banner deck, you're going to be really tight on space, so it doesn't seem that good, unfortunately. Fury, a warship. While you control Stannis, he gets Intimidate. After you win a power challenge, kneel Fury to choose a character or location. Move 1 power from that card to your faction card. I'm not sure how I feel about this, but overall I'm not inclined to... it doesn't seem very good. Giving Stannis Intimidate is... I don't know. I don't think it's that good because Baratheon tends to be a fairly defensive faction. You're not usually trying to attack aggressively. You're trying to like not lose power challenges. So getting Intimidate is not super appealing. If getting Intimidate was that strong, then Laughing Lord would already see some play, and it basically doesn't. And this is like a bad version of Laughing Lord because it only gives it to Stannis, not anything else. The stealing power off of opponent's cards, it has to be character location, yes. So there's going to be a lot of times we just don't have any characters locations with any power to steal, so what's the point? So it doesn't seem very good. The only time I can think of is when you're adding power to their characters somehow, but I'm not sure how you would ever do that in a way that's like smart or makes sense. Probably just not a very good card. So now we have the Lannister cards. Gunthor, Son of Gurn. A 3 cost, 2 icons, 3 strength clansman. Ambush 4. After you win a challenge where he's attacking, the losing opponent must choose and discard 1 card from their hand. I think this is a good one-of for clansman decks. I mean, good aggro ability where, you know, you're trying to kill all their stuff. This basically kills stuff by killing their hand. Good cost and like icons ratio. Definitely a good one-of for Clansman decks. And we've got Tyrion sitting here reading a book with his alcohol. 1 cost, My Mind is My Weapon event. During a military challenge, choose a character you control with an intrigue icon and have it participate in the challenge on your side. I don't... the way this reads, it doesn't kneel the character, so the character can be standing and participate in the challenge with this event, and then they can just do another challenge. Or they could already be kneeling, and they could be added to the challenge with this event anyways. So I think this definitely has potential. Definitely, I think with the new agenda that we're getting in this box, Sea of Blood, I think this event has potential because, you know, for a military challenge, adding a big intrigue icon character or getting a surprise additional character to win by 5, pretty strong. Definitely good for that deck. I'm not sure about it in general. Maybe for Clansman decks, it's kind of nice as like a trick card. For other decks, probably not really worth it. But seems like a decent event. It at least seems playable. Because, you know, getting 2 challenges out of whatever, you know, Tywin or giant character can obviously be pretty good. Now we've got the Martell cards. 2 cost Desert Raider, 1 icon, 2 strength. Ally House Dane Raider. Reaction, after you lose a challenge, put Desert Raider into play from your dead pile and choose a character controlled by the winning opponent. That character gains a power, and until the end of the phase, they also lose an intrigue icon or a power icon, and Desert Raider gains that icon. That is a complex ability with a bunch of stuff going on. But basically, I think this is a pretty good card because getting cards, I mean, it's a claim soak to start off with, then it's a claim soak that revives itself for free and steals an icon. That seems pretty solid. You have their character gain 1 power. A lot of times you can work around that, and like that's not going to be that big of a downside, obviously. I think this card will see a fair bit of play, and most definitely in the Martell decks that are trying to just delete the opponent's board. Who cares if their character gains power when it's just going to get marched to the wall or whatever anyways? It's definitely going to be a good card for that deck. We have the Blood Royal, a 1 cost House Ironwood title. Martell character only. While you are not the first player, attached character gains stealth and renown. This is bad. There's not much else to say about it. 1 cost positive attachment, just get renown and stealth. I mean, who cares? Martell is not a faction that really does rush or like renown dues or anything like that, so it doesn't seem like it'll really accomplish anything. I guess if you really super duper want to, you can put this in Martell Crossing and try to rush people out as the second player every turn with like retaliation or something. Probably still not worth it. So this type of like weak positive attachment that's, I mean, it's not helping you win any challenges really. Okay, stealth, who really cares? It's just not, and I mean, it just gets disabled if you're not the second player, and it seems bad. Alright, let's see about these Nice Watch characters. Or cards, rather. Vindictive Ranger, 3 cost, 3 strength, military ranger. After you lose a challenge as a defending player, Vindictive Ranger gains stealth and a challenge icon of your choice until the end of the phase. So a card that rewards you for going second. It's a little bit interesting. Not sure how I feel about this card. Doesn't seem that great overall because you basically have to go second in order for it to have much of a relevant ability. And even then, oh, well, he gets an icon in stealth. I mean, I could just use the Naive Scout, which is a 3 cost 4 strength that already has 2 icons anyways. Not sure if it's really worth it for this guy to have a very conditional stealth and the potential to only have 1 icon. Doesn't seem that good. Westwatch by the Bridge, the North Location, 1 cost. Kneel Westwatch by the Bridge to choose and stand another Nice Watch location with printed cost 1 or lower, printed cost 4 or lower instead, if you control a Ranger, Steward, and Builder. So what locations can you stand with this? You cannot stand the 6 cost wall with it, so that's out. I can't really think of that many other Nice Watch locations that are really that worth standing. Like if you get this condition fulfilled, you can stand Underground Vault. But that just seems bad. I mean, to put the location in only to do that. I mean, standing the Haunted Forest or Corset Wall, obviously that could be good, but you have to fulfill this condition of having all 3 traits. I'm on the fence. I think if this gets any use, it'll be in Corset Wall decks. But even then, I'm not sure because of this condition that you have to have all 3 of the Night's Watch traits in play. That might just be a little too specific to really make it worth it. And I definitely don't think this is any good if you're limited to only standing 1-cost locations with it. So now we have the start cards. We have Maester Viman, a House Tully Maester, 2-cost, 2-strength power icon. After you win a military or power challenge, kneel Maester Viman to choose another character that shares a trait with him. That character gains 1 power. Basically another Tully Power Rush card. This sort of Tully Power Rush deck has never been a thing. It's too easily disrupted, and I don't think this guy will be any exception to that rule. You know, theoretically, if you have the dream, you toss out like Hoster Tully and all these Tully chumps, and you get 5 million power. In reality, you know, something happens and it just doesn't work. Karhold, 2-cost location. While a player does not have a winter plot revealed, characters and locations they control cannot gain power. Well, this is an interesting card. This is either a card for a winter deck, or it could be a more general tech card to just stop renown and rush decks. Because, you know, winter plots are really not that popular at all. There's a high chance that the opponent has 0 of them. So if you're up against a crossing deck that's going to try to claim a bunch of power on Randall Tarly, and you just marshal this location, that can kind of slow them down a lot. Is that really worth it? I'm going to say probably not. Deck space is extremely tight in Stark already, and this is too specific to really make the cut. I don't think you can really afford to put in cards that only have utility in very specific matchups, and in other matchups against like popular decks are basically dead cards. Like against Targaryen, what does this accomplish? Basically nothing. So I don't think this will really see any play. Even in a winter themed deck, I don't know if it would be worth it, because space is also pretty crammed there. Alright, Targaryen cards, Kohallo, 4-cost, 5-strength Blood Rider Dothraki with Intimidate and no icons. Action, kneel Kohallo and discard a card that haven't participated in a challenge on your side. So in order to attack with this guy and use his Intimidate, you have to attack with another character first and then add Kohallo to the challenge, which is very inefficient to be forced to use 2 bodies, and when a lot of the times you will be able to win with just 1. And then discarding a card just to get an Intimidate, is that really worth it? Probably not, would be my guess. You're Targaryen, you have 5 million ways to discard cards, and that means you probably have better ways to do it than that. I would say this character is probably not really worth using, but I may end up being totally wrong, who knows. If he was just an Intimidate character that had icons on his own, he'd be pretty damn good. But with this ability, I just don't think it's going to be that good. It's too inefficient to have a character that requires you to declare another character alongside it to attack. You want to have a character that's able to attack by itself if you want it to. We have Dance of the Dragons, 1-cost song event. Choose a non-event card with printed cost 3 or lower in your discard pile and return it to your hand. Well, thank the Lord you can't bring events back. Finally, Fantasy Flight has halfway of the tiniest bit of sense when it comes to Targaryen. And printed cost 3 or lower. Very clever. I see what you did there. So you barely cut it off before getting to Crown of Gold. Again, thank you. Unfortunately, what this can do is bring back Queensguard after it's been confiscated. That's going to make me pretty sad when people are doing that. But other than Queensguard, is this really worth it? I don't think so. I think maybe it goes in Queensguard decks as insurance for your Queensguard to make sure that you can get it back if it gets discarded. But that's probably the only really good use for it. Like, what else would you revive with this event that's really worth it instead of just having more characters in the deck as opposed to this event? I mean, I can't really think of much else. Maybe in banner decks it can be more of an interesting card because it's non-loyal and it doesn't specify Targaryen card. It's any card printing cost 3 or lower. So if you banner this into Stark, you can bring back Marriage Pacts. That could be pretty strong. You banner this into Night's Watch, and you can just bring back Craven and Milk of the Poppy. That could be pretty strong. Maybe there's some potential there. One thing that's pretty funny that you could probably do is you could do like Targaryen Banner of Night's Watch and use Wise Masters in this card. And then you have 6 cards in your deck that lets you pull Craven and Milk back out of your discard pile to keep using them over and over again. That'd be super obnoxious. Maybe there's a deck there. Got the Tyrell cards now. Sir Talbert Seri, 3 cost, 2 icon, 3 strength knight. No attachment except weapon. After an opponent triggers a location ability, Sir Talbert Seri gets +2 strength until the end of the phase. Limit 3 times per phase. Probably just a good one-of for like Night's Rush decks. If you're doing the typical sort of Tyrell crossing or just whatever agenda that you want with a bunch of Tyrell Knights, he's probably good as a one copy because he is unique. So just toss one of them in there. You know, not much else to say about him. But if you're using what is that plot that gives everybody renown? Attorney for the King, definitely a decent card to have around. The Shield Islands, 2 cost Tyrell Location. Increase the number of cards each player draws in the draw phase by 1. I don't see why you would ever pay 2 for an effect that doesn't actually benefit you relative to your opponent. It's like it benefits both of you equally. So this seems bad and doesn't seem like it should ever be used. Bronze Jan Royce, a neutral 6 cost House Aaron Lord. 5 cost, 2 icons, Renown. After you win a challenge in which he's defending, kneel a neutral location with printed cost 1 or higher to stand him. So you can put this in there and kneel. You can kneel Great Halls to stand him. You can kneel Gates of the Moon to stand him. You can even kneel Flea Bottom to stand him. Maybe he goes in Night's Watch Corset Wall decks because he can defend that way, and like, you know, that deck has Gates of the Moon, and maybe he's decent there. And then obviously Brotherhood decks. He could go in Brotherhood decks because he's a big body with a relatively useful ability. Definitely think he could be a Brotherhood character. But other than those two, I mean, he's an interesting card, but just doesn't really fit because, I mean, he's neutral, so. Now we've got 4 cost, 3 strength, 2 icons, Rogue Wildling, Ambush 5. After Rogue Wildling enters play, choose and stand a Wildling you control. Probably a little bit too expensive for the free folk. Don't really think you need him in that deck. He does seem more appealing for a Brotherhood deck because whatever character you gave Intimidate to, you can use this to stand the character and attack twice with it. That's pretty cool. Ambush 5 is still just pretty expensive, but I think there is at least potential there for Brotherhood decks. Citadel Archivist, 2 cost, 1 strength, 2 icons, Maester. After Citadel Archivist enters your discard pile, each player shuffles his or her discard pile into their deck. I don't really see the use of this card. Just seems bad. I mean, if you're doing a Conclave deck, you'd probably always rather have the Citadel Novice, right? Maybe he's supposed to be some type of anti-tech to like stop people from doing stuff with their discard piles. I don't know, just a weird card. Doesn't seem like it has any actual use. The Starry Sept. 3 cost location here. It's a 7 and Old Town location. Move 1 power from the Starry Sept to choose a character. Until the end of the phase, treat that character as if its text box were blank. And there's no limit on this, so you can just, however much power you have, you can do it that many times. After you win a power challenge, the Starry Sept gains 1 power. I think this deck definitely has potential. Not this deck, this location. I don't know, 3 cost is just expensive though, and like you have to win power challenges to actually do anything with it. Man, so it feels a bit like a win more card, but the ability to blank opponents' characters that are otherwise going to be a really big problem for you, there's definitely a lot of potential there. I'm just not sure how I feel about it overall. Yeah, we'll see. I'm on the fence with this card. Maybe it'll be a thing, maybe it won't. When I Woke, 2-cost event. After a player loses a military challenge, that player chooses a participating character and places it on top of its owner's deck. Max 1 per challenge. So I think what you do with this is, if after you lose a military as a defending player, you just play this, and whatever character attacks, you just put it on top of the other guy's deck. Has the potential to be pretty devastating. If they attack with whatever expensive character and it doesn't have a dupe, you just put it on top of the deck with this. I mean, that's kind of a blowout, right? So this, I think, will be pretty good anti-tech against people that are spamming the new Sea of Blood agenda, and just has potential in general as sort of a card to blow people up if you're expecting to run into a bunch of big characters doing military challenges. Trying to think of the type of deck that wants to play this, but I actually think it's not totally unreasonable to just slap these in a deck, almost no matter what it is, because it seems like it could be just such a strong play in general to kill people with that. I mean, you could just like throw it in there and it might randomly win you a game if it puts like a Euron Crow's Eye on top of the other person's deck. We have Reckless, terminal 0-cost condition attachment. Attached character must be declared as an attacker or defender in each challenge if able. This is an interesting control attachment. Not sure if this is really going to be good enough. We'll see what happens with this card, but probably I would say it compares unfavorably with Milk of the Poppy, I would guess. But I think you could, it's sort of like Strangler, but the difference with Strangler was it was 2-cost, and this is 0. So that makes this a lot more usable. And so you can put this on characters and force them to be used at inopportune times. Sort of the problem with that is, especially if your opponent is going first, they're still going to be able to use the character at whatever time that they really would prefer to. And there's a lot of characters that you don't really care when they get used, as long as they win the challenge that they go into, such as Corset Euron Crow's Eye, 7-cost Asha, basically a lot of big characters like that. Randall Tarley is an example. If he has to be declared in every challenge, but he still gets used 3 times and he wins 3 challenges, what's the big deal? It's still pretty good. So, not sure if this will really be good enough. I guess we'll find out. I'm leaning towards probably not. Probably won't see much play. One thing that could be interesting with this is you could use it when you're trying to win on offense by certain amounts of power, or basically push challenges through to activate powerful effects, such as Sea of Blood or Greyjoy unopposed decks. You can put this on opponents' characters that they're going to try to defend with, and force that character to defend in a different challenge type. So let's say I want to do a big military, and I put this on their big dude that has a military and a power icon. Then I just attack on power first, and the character has to defend the power challenge. Then I can win the military by 5. Maybe it has a use in that case. Also, because it's cost 0, maybe you can use it in Cohort decks. Maybe 1 or 2 of these will be good for Cohort. We'll see about that as well. Now we've got some plots. We take Westeros. This is a new Greyjoy plot. 5 gold, 9 initiative, 1 claim, 6 reserve. When revealed, choose a location in a discard pile and put it into play under your control. This seems really good, and I'm not sure there's much else to say about it. I'll probably use this instead of Forced March in my Greyjoy decks. I'm actually not sure if it's better than Forced March, but I'm bored of every game like both people have 2 copies of Forced March, so I'll probably use this instead. It definitely has the potential to be pretty damn strong, because you're Greyjoy, so this gives you another way to discard an opponent's location and then steal it without having to use the Corset Euron. And that can obviously just win you games on the spot. Return to the fields. 4 cost, 6 initiative, 1 claim, 7 reserve. You may sacrifice up to 3 characters. For each character sacrificed this way, draw 1 card and gain 1 gold. This seems pretty bad. You're sacrificing characters, which almost always cost more than 1 gold. And you're drawing cards, but you're also losing cards because you're sacrificing characters that are already in play. So you would need to be doing something very specific and very strong with this in order for this plot to ever be worth it. I'm not sure off the top of my head what that could be or what that would look like that would be worthwhile. Yeah, this just seems bad. Heir to the Iron Throne. 4 cost, 1 initiative, 1 claim, 6 reserve. When revealed, search the top 10 cards of your deck for a lord or lady and put it into play. Shuffle your deck, then sacrifice a lord or lady. I think this definitely has potential in decks where you just go really hard on lords and ladies, and you have your faction or faction combinations such that you have some really cheap lord and lady characters. So for example, if I'm Baratheon, I can sacrifice the 2-cost Shireen Baratheons to put Robert Baratheon into play. That's a net gain of 5 gold, and that makes it a 9 gold plot basically that put Robert Baratheon in. But it does require Robert to be in the top 10, and it requires me to already have Shireen in play. So it's probably just a little bit too specific to be worth it in that sense. If it was search the whole deck, then it would be a lot more reliable, but searching the top 10 makes it a very real risk that whatever play you're hoping to do with it actually will not be available. Maybe in some type of Tyrell deck, where you like banner in 2-cost lord or lady characters from another faction, like Tyrell Banner of the Lion, because then you get Tommen and you get Lancel, and you also get some 3-cost ladies, I think, if you want to use those. And then you could like sacrifice one of those to put in Renly or Marjorie, 6-cost Marjorie, something like that. I give that as sort of a fringe case. Then it kind of compares favorably to a noble cause. Basically the only deck I can think of where I really would use it off the top of my head. Stolen Message, 5/7/1 6 reserve scheme. Each opponent plays with the top card of his or her deck revealed. Action, pay 1 gold to place the top card of an opponent's deck on the bottom of that player's deck, limit 3 times. I don't understand the point of this plot. It seems bad. I don't know why you would ever use this. Yeah, not much else to say. Secrets of the Conclave, 4 gold, 4 initiative, 1 claim, 7 reserve. They like their 7 reserve plots this time around. Wasn't there another one? Yeah, that was also 7. After the challenge phase begins, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, add 1 to your hand, discard 1, and put the others back on top in any order. This is a 4 gold, gain 1 card plot. I don't understand why you would use this instead of just using exchange of information, which is basically guaranteed to get you at least 2. This plot seems pretty bad. I'm not sure what type of shenanigans or tricks this is supposed to enable that really would ever justify using it. It's just not a great plot overall. Even Close Call, it's 1 more gold, it also draws you a card, and it has the utility of like reviving a dead character. So it seems better than this. Vanquish the Unbelievers. This is my least favorite card in the box by a fairly good amount. 5 gold, 8 initiative, 2 claim, 5 reserve. After the challenges phase begins, choose a trait. Kill each character you control that does not have that trait. Cannot be saved. I don't like this card because this card only goes in Free Folk, which is a deck that I hate above every other deck. It's my least favorite deck, and now they have access to a Winner You Die with 5 reserve. Which, I mean, it doesn't draw 2 cards, but it also doesn't discard your hand. And does Free Folk really need 2 copies of You Winner You Die? No, they didn't need that. It's not that difficult at all. I'd say it's more than reasonable to have a Free Folk deck with 0 non-Wildling characters, so that the plot has no downside. It's very unreasonable to make any type of other traded deck in any other way that every single card in the deck has the trait that you want. And like you literally don't even have reducer chomps or anything like that. And in that case, you know, this plot is not really going to be worth it unless you have close to 100% of the deck with the preferred trait. Even in, yeah, I mean, I guess you could go for like a 100% Knights deck with Tyrell or something like that and try to use this, but even then it's like you'd probably just be better off using Attorney for the King or some other strong plot instead of having to change how your deck is built to accommodate this card. So it's basically just a power buff to Free Folk for no reason. I really wish they would not print this. And the new agenda does not seem to be listed on here, Sea of Blood. So I guess I'm not going to review Sea of Blood off the top of my head. I'll probably give it some discussion when the box actually releases and I release some test games with the Sea of Blood agenda. I am a bit scared of Sea of Blood. I think it will produce more decks that play similar to Free Folk decks, except, without just having to be the Free Folk agenda. I'm a bit scared that it will encourage games where it's like, oh, you lose the challenge on the first turn, you immediately lose the game. But it shouldn't be quite as strong as Free Folk, because I think you still have to win by 5 to use the agenda. I could be wrong about that. Well, I don't think you have to win by, even if you don't have to win by 5, you have to win by 5 to use Put to the Sword or Put to the Torch. And those are the cards that are going to make that are going to enable the deck to win on the first turn when they can activate those events. So there's more counterplay that way right away. They have to win military as opposed to Free Folk, which can kill 4 characters off of winning other challenges. It is a bit more of a limitation, so we'll just see. I'm not sure how that agenda is going to shake out. I think it'll have potential to be a strong deck. I just don't know if it'll be overpowered or not. And if it leads to... yeah, not really sure. Anyways, that's the pack review, or rather the box review. I guess these are the full spoilers. I'm too lazy to actually count the cards here, but I think this is all of them. Anyways, if there's any that I missed that aren't in here, I'll just like make an addendum later or something when the actual box comes out. Those are my thoughts. Oh my goodness, took an hour. I legitimately sat here and rambled for an hour. If anybody actually listened to this whole video, you're a flippin' champion, dude. I don't think I even want to listen to myself for an hour. Alright.